So I wanted to give you guys a quick tutorial slash like not buyer's guide, but kind of a review on two orb tools that you can buy from two guys that are amazing light painters, and then one that I've created that I was originally introduced to doing orb work and some light painting by my friend Bonnie. Blue Soul, you should check her out. She showed me some things a couple years ago, and then I've kind of found some, based off that, found some things that worked, and then just kind of really found exactly what I personally like for some of the orbs that I do that are really tight orbs, really bright in some situations. So I'm going to start off with that one because that one's my kind of my baby. So I'm going to show the camera here, and I'm going to show you guys. This is a Christmas, they're Christmas lights. So it's a battery pack, takes 6 AA's, and it comes with a really small, like 22 gauge wire. And then all of the lights, this is a 60 LED. All the lights are in a long strand. You've seen people take the pictures with the Christmas lights where they've got them, someone's holding them. There's a new trend out and someone's holding. Anyway, that's what these are. What I do is I bend them back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until I get them into a big ball. And then I take 16 gauge speaker wire that's got a really nice thick jacket on it. I splice the lights onto one end. I do crimps, zip ties, and electrical tape. Same on this side. Crimp, zip ties, and electrical tape. And I get this really awesome lightweight tool. Now, downside is you've got a bulky item here, and you only got one color. 6 AA batteries. It's going to last a while because you're not going to use it a whole lot. But 6 AA's, it's heavy and it's bulky. So if I want 3 or 4 colors, I've got a lot of luggage here. And when I travel, it's a big issue. The upside of what I really love about this is that the end is super light. Also, the cable being speaker wire, which is a stranded, so it's 2 conductors. The conductors are stranded. The conductors themselves are shielded, and then there's the jacketing around it. I can grasp the wire, spin the living shit out of it, and it's not going to damage the internal cabling. You will want to wear a glove. I use mechanics gloves. The mechanics gloves are awesome. And because after a while you're going to blister the shit out of your fingers, which we'll get into some of that with some of these other ones later. But anyway, if you're leaving comments, I can't read them. I have my phone flipped around the other way. DM me if you got questions or anything. I can come back to them later. So the thing I love so much about this is how light it is, and what it allows me to do. I can hold this with just 2 fingers and get this really great speed spin, and which is going to bring us to the first of the tutorial / info whatever is how to do the orb. All of you that are featured artists, you have your techniques, and those of you who are just followers of the page that have no idea how we do this, I'm gonna give you an inside scoop. The first key, and regardless of my tool or Frank's tool or Denis's tool that we're going to talk about, is picking a spot on the ground, and that's the number 1 key. Is to visualize a spot. Either visualize it or put a piece of tape down, or get a rock, or find a divot in the concrete, or wherever you are. You find a spot on the ground, and your objective is to make the light hit that spot every single time. regardless whose tool you're using, if it's your own tool that you've come up with, you guys know this, but for those of you who don't, the key is to hit that spot every single time, right? So, if you need to, for me, I'm left-handed, and I prefer to spin left. I can't spin with my right hand. It just doesn't work. So I spin left-handed, and I prefer to spin counterclockwise. I know guys that spin clockwise, and depending on whether you're spinning clockwise or counterclockwise also depends on how you like to move. I like to spin counterclockwise and rotate clockwise. I know guys that like to spin clockwise and rotate counterclockwise. There's so many techniques. It's all depending on what works best for you. So for me, with this tool, I spin in front of my body. I spin counterclockwise, and I am going to look straight down to the ground and rotate around that spot that I've picked out. And what I love about this tool, which I've posted, I have a green one. I just got this green one, but all the ones I did are white, that are really tight, is this exact thing. What I love about it is I can spin it super fast. And again, either develop some calluses or wear gloves, because after this, my fingers are going to be a little raw. I can go slow if I want to do some. If I spin slow, I can walk faster, right? Because I don't have to worry about controlling that speed. But when I start spinning super fast, which if I'm trying to do a really short exposure and I want to get a lot of lines, like if I want to line it up and I only got maybe 15 seconds, I'm going to spin this as fast as I can, keeping my arm to my ribs and my wrist super tight and doing a super, super, super tight spinning motion. That doesn't work for everyone's rigs, and that doesn't work especially for the heavy rigs, because once you get that weight in there, that weight will start to pull. And when it starts to pull, you're going to start to see those deviations. You're going to start to get the wobble effect. You'll also see, even on a tight orb, and you can see on some of mine, you'll get a tight orb, but at the top, you'll notice the vertical axis point, instead of being straight up here, you'll have one here, and you'll have one over here. Even though it's a perfect sphere and a perfect orb, you'll get these two ones, and that's because you get the deviations, the axis movements. So what you want to do is just keep it as tight as you can. Like I said, I love this. It's great. It's really bright, super bright. Sometimes can be too bright. When I've done some stuff to try and get the Milky Way, it's kind of blown out. It's too bright. It's heavy, but again, it's super light, and that's what I love about it. Is I can just and I like the control with my fingers. I like to be able to feel the cable and feel where things are going. This is what I learned on, and for me, it's really my go-to. Even though I've got two other great tools, one of them is on lease. Bonnie, if you're watching or do watch this, I need to get that one back to you. And Frank, I need to get one from you, one of your new ones. I know I can always spin a good tight orb with these, and this is just because what I learned on. It's like if you started off with 35 millimeter manual focus lenses lenses, a lot of time you're going to flip that lens on a manual focus because that's just what you learned on and that's what you're comfortable with. So this is my guy. These really, really, really tiny LED ones are the newer ones. The older ones were much bigger and fatter, and so it'd be 15 to 30 LEDs, and it was twice this size, and now we can get 60 in this tight ball, which is cool, but it takes a lot more battery power. The next one is Frank, Photo Excursion. I'll put some links up for Frank's products. He takes these high-powered flashlights, and then I have not opened one of these up, and I won't, because I'm gonna leave that to his. He does his thing, and the same reason why Denis, I'm not gonna open up his product and show you. But Frank takes some super high-power flashlights and puts his own electronics on the inside, and that's his thing. And they're awesome. They're super bright. This is not what he. I don't know if he ships them with a jump rope, but what I've seen most people that use his tools are using. It's basically a jump rope. You've got this is Frank's tool. This you can do whatever you want with. His tool has a loop. There's going to be, at the end of the light, there'll be a loop. So you can attach a jump rope to it, which I always recommend if you're going to get one. You can make your own. I think Frank sells some with his kits that you can get. I made this one myself. I basically bought a jump rope with a steel cable, and I cut it in half, and I went to the hardware store and got some pieces, but I think Frank does some stuff. There's some other guys out there doing some stuff as well. And then the jump rope end, you can get the one that's got the straight ball bearing, or you can get the traditional style, or you don't have to use it. Like I said, you don't have to use jump rope at all. In fact, when I use Frank's tool, a lot of times, unfortunately, my wrist gets really tired. Is I take some parachute cord, and I have a carabiner attached to the end of the parachute cord, so it's similar to the tool that I started using, where I'm holding a cable in my hand, and I'm spinning that cable so I can feel the movement of the cable and where it's going. I feel like I lose some of that, but with a jump rope. But I know a lot of guys that are out there that are using the jump rope rig with Frank's tool, or with a flashlight at the end, and do great orbs. So with his tool, he has all different colors, multiple colors. It's really cool. They're super bright. My issue with it was because I started off with such light LED. The end of my tool was so light. When I got this one, it's heavier. It's got batteries in it. It's a flashlight. But some people like that because with that extra weight, you don't have, like with my light one, if I slow down too much, when it comes up to the vertical, it may drop. With this, if you keep a consistent speed, the weight of the weight of the tool is going to keep it going in this really nice tight orb. Now, what you have to, if you're using a jump rope style attachment like this, what you have to keep in mind is if you go too fast, what will happen is as you're rotating, the cable, instead of following, if you're holding it like this. Now, let me tell you something real quick. I tend to hold in front of me because that's how I was taught, right? That's how I was comfortable with. I know a lot of guys that go on the side that will do a side, and they'll usually, when they do a side, they'll walk backwards. I can't do that except for on Denis's tool. So if you're going to hold it in front of you and you're going to use a jump rope onto Frank's rig or to another flashlight type apparatus, what you have to keep in mind is if you go too fast, when you start to rotate, the cable may, instead of rotating with you, will actually stay out here, or it will come in and hit you. So it's a practice makes perfect with any of these. You just gotta You see guys like Chris K-Foot, or Frank, or Denis, or Smurf, Benji, and Matt, where you're like, are they in their living room? Yes, we're in our living rooms, and we're playing around with this stuff, practicing and making sure that we're getting better. Or if we've got new tools that we're playing with, they're testing our new tools and making sure that when we get out to do a shoot, that we've got everything down exactly the way we want. So if you're using Frank's tool, again, I like to do a really nice medium speed, smooth rotation, slow paced circle, and man, it comes out with some really nice effects. It's great. It's good stuff. Photo Excursion, Frank P. Frank, I don't even know your last name. I just know Frank P. Frank P. Anyway, it's cool. You'll have to DM him. Like I said, I'll put links up. DM him for pricing. Like I said, this was his first series. His newer series is, from what I've heard, is brighter, and he's got other colors, more colors, and everything else. So hit him up for pricing or availability. I know that he's up in Canada. He's a great guy. He does some awesome work. Follow him if you don't already. Last one is going to be Denis's ball light tool, and I know Denis has been working on this tool for years, and then he finally released it, and it was a pretty big deal. And I was able to get one pretty quick. It's in 3 pieces. It's got the controller, the cable, and the balls, which have all the different colors on them. So what you can do is, instead of like my big huge clunky 6 AA batteries units, you can have multiple balls. And I think with even Frank's stuff, I mean, you get a couple of his and a couple of, I mean, you're about the same size. So anyway, so the biggest learning curve for me on Denis's tool was that he uses an RG6 cable to connect the controller to the balls. And an RG6 cable is a solid core wire inside. Unlike what I learned with, which was the stranded cores, they're flexible and they don't break. I can't just grab this solid core wire and start spinning it, otherwise it'll split the inside, the core, and I'll have to get a new cable. But what he did is he came up with this sling and this sling here. So for his tool, it's bright and it's adjustable, which is nice. I wish I had this specifically on one photo shoot I did, which was underneath in northern Michigan. I was trying to get the Milky Way and do orbs, and my orbs with my homemade tool was, even my less bright homemade tool was just washing everything out. You know, when you're doing Milky Way shots, you're at f2.8 at ISO like 2000, 2500 for 15 seconds, and you get a bright LED orb tool and you're gonna wash it out. So it's nice to be able to have this adjustable brightness. Okay, as you can tell, it's daytime and I'm in a different outfit, and yeah, I basically didn't realize that I was on a timer for 20 minutes and ran over and then continued to talk, and now I'm having to go back over. I looked through my film. I also wanted to correct myself. This is not RG6, this is RG59. It's a smaller, the internal core, which he's using for his positive power, is the same, but the jacketing is smaller. It's a more flexible wire, so it is RG59. So what I was getting ready to tell you was the hardest part for me with Denis's tool, after using my own tools for so long, was the sling, and not being able to rely on my tight finger movement and really tight wrist movement. This really requires a rotation of the wrist. Once you, it didn't take me long to get used to it, but what I had to change in my spinning technique was, instead of spinning in front of me, I needed to spin out to my side. It allows for out to your side, allows your wrist, a better wrist movement, and the rotation. Now when I use, even though I changed my spinning technique with Denis's rig tool, when I use my own, I still go out in front of me, just because that's how I'm used to it. But when I use Denis's, I go out to my side, so it's just a different movement. And I know a lot of people that actually spin like this before, without Denis's tool, with their own tools, with whatever. So it's a side spin and a backwards walk. And again, you're doing the same thing, the exact same thing that you would do with any of the tools, is this finding the spot on the ground, walking around that spot. I know some guys that do some like really wide movements. It's all about what works best for you and what works best for which tool you're using. But overall, Denis's tool is great. It's made very well. He's put a lot of time and effort and a lot of years into developing it. Like any of the other ones, it's what you like, what works for you. I wouldn't say that any of these are better than the rest. They all have their own purpose. I like having all three of them in my tool bag, so they get a lot of different results. But yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. It was a little long, but as far as those three, my Amazon special, and then Frank P. Photo Excursion, and Denis Smith's ball light, they're just options. They're tools for anyone to use. If you want to know more about Frank or Denis's, hit them up. I've got links. And if you got any more questions from me about what I've created, my little Walmart special or Amazon special, hit me up, let me know. There are some other options out there. Next video I do, or next live, Instagram live I do, I'll show you those, and maybe go back over some techniques, as well as talking about some other light painting techniques that you can add in with your orb creations to do some even more spectacular light painting shots. So again, thank you very much for tuning in, and keep spinning.